This is an application called OpenBlocks, and it exists both on Steam, which is what I'm opening up right now, and there's also a version that runs on the Quest 3, Quest 2, and Quest 3. So it's completely virtual. It's not doesn't have pass through. Experience is still opening up. So powered by Google Blocks. So several years back, there was an application started by Google Blocks, which allowed you to make different types of content in VR space. And it was pretty interesting because you could start with primitives like this right here, or you could kind of add different objects into the scene, and then you can modify those objects in lots of different ways, right? Um, so for polygonal models, you could make quite a few different variations in here. Um, and you could add a good deal of complexity. You notice that there's a bounding box around this scene right here. So that's the limits of the space. You need to work inside those parameters. But you could do quite a bit inside this space. Google Blocks had it running for a couple of years, and what they imagined was that it might be a way to import objects to create massive amounts of objects if you had this kind of democratized understanding of creation of 3D content, and then they could actually use game engines to distribute that. So they actually had a plugin for Unity. So you could access different content that was available through Poly, which was their online kind of sharing and collaborative tool. So some of the content you'll see here, so the way you can open up scenes. No, I don't want to save my work. So this was something that I made years ago in Google Blocks. So what I found to be a lot of fun about it is you can just take different aspects. These are just spheres. You can combine them in different ways and make a more complex scene. Then you could take certain models, like this is basically a character that I created, well, mostly created, um, and I could drop him into different scenes. So you can import whole groups of objects into scenes. So it allows a lot of flexibility in that way. I'm going to open up another scene or two to show kind of what some of the possibilities are. This was a different robot that I made. Don't save. So as you can see here, I'm using just a lot of primitives to make content like this. This is just a modified cylinder. This is a modified sphere. This is a modified torus. Not much change to it. And by doing that, you can create, this whole grouping. The way the controls work are pretty straightforward. Like if I wanted to group an object, I would just do it like this. I'd grab all these pieces, and then they're becoming highlighted. Let's say I want to group all of them together. Maybe I want to leave the arm separate. And then you see it's highlighted here, group selection. So I can go ahead and do that. And then I could take these pieces out. It looks like I missed a portion right there. Not the end of the world. But in that way, I set up a whole bunch of different scenes in Google Blocks. And they were kind of abandoned there for a while. And now that the ICASA Foundation, picked up the Google Blocks code, and now there's the ability to modify the content or create new content directly in this space. So yeah, this is the way the tool works, that you can go directly in, and I can modify down to the vertex or the line segment, or you can modify by faces, which is pretty convenient. You can also erase whole objects. I didn't want to do that. I undid that. You can then create strokes. So in this case, I'm making a stroke, or you can insert whole shapes. And then the paint, which is kind of fun, it just flip around to the other side of this, and then you can either paint faces or whole objects. Like I could paint a whole object, or I can paint just a face. Maybe I'll do that here. Yep. I'm going to undo twice to make that go away. And then, as I alluded to before, you can actually insert objects into scenes fairly easily. So this is pretty interesting. Then you can export these scenes if you wanted to. You could do it as an FBX or as OBJs, and then you can modify it further in other 3D modeling packages. Anyway, Google Blocks, now Open Blocks, a lot of fun to experiment with. And the immediacy of working directly in the VR space is pretty amazing. Um, yeah, I'll probably be sharing more content about this, but I'm really excited that this is now running. It runs about the same speed whether you're running it directly off of a headset, and you can actually share the files onto the headset or work through Steam VR off of a PC like I'm doing right now. Great. Thanks so much.